Hello friends, my name is AJ and welcome to the 7th video of Carolina Analytics and Data Science's Introduction to Python for Data Science series. In this video, we're going to talk about the concept of iteration, or basically putting loops or repetitions in our code. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, everyone. So again, here I have a blank Jupyter notebook with two main sections for the different concepts we're going to talk about in this video. Now, I want you to think about kind of what a loop in this case is referring to. And what a loop allows us to do is it allows us to repeat our code. So we can take a certain number of lines of code and repeat them continuously. Now, obviously, you might be thinking, well, it can run continuously, but usually there needs to be, otherwise, it's just going to run forever. You need to have something that is going to stop it from running. And that is what the while and for loop will allow us to do. So a while loop allows us to repeat code while a certain condition is true. And it stops when the condition is no longer true. All right, seems fair enough. So what we're going to use is we're going to use the while keyword to create a while loop, while, and then we have a condition, a colon, and then we have code to repeat here. All right. Now this might look very familiar. It looks very similar to an if statement, except here we have while instead of if, and that is completely true. So I'm going to make a new cell. Also, I did not mean to run this. I'm going to clear the output because, condition is not actually a variable. So I'm going to make a new cell over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a while loop as an example. All right. And what I'm going to do is I want to take a number and keep adding to it until it gets to 10. And I want to print out the number that it is at. Okay. So basically what I want is I want to start out with 1, and I want to print out, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All until it gets to 10, and then it's going to stop printing. Okay, so to do this, well, the first value is going to be, so my initial value is going to be 1. Okay, my initial value is going to be 1. Now, I want to repeat. Well, what do I want to repeat? Well, in this case, I want to actually print out my initial. So if I run this, and actually I should probably count this, I'll just call this number, the number that I'm currently on, right? And you can see here, I want this to print out to be 1, okay? Then the next, I want to add 1 to my value. So I want to take number plus equals 1, and then I want to print it again. So print out num. And now it prints out 2, all right? And I want to now do num plus equals 2, or 1 again, and print out num. And you can see now it's 3. And again, I'm going to do num plus equals 1, and print out num again. And you can see print out 4. And I want to do this all the way until my number hits 10. Now you can see I can do this all the way there, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think it looks like that. Yep. But this is very repetitive. You can see I'm essentially repeating the same line of code many, many times. And that is simply not efficient. So we can use a loop to do this for us. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new cell below this. And I want to start out my number again at 1. And now I want to actually create my while loop. Okay. Now, I don't know what my condition is necessarily going to be yet, so I'll leave this as condition. But I know what I want to repeat. And what I want to repeat is this right over here. I'm repeating this so many times, right? I want to, well, actually here, I want to print the number and then add 1 to it. So I want to copy that and paste that right over here. And you can see that just like with the if statement, if I want both of these lines to be part of my loop, which means that those two lines are going to be what's repeating, I need to make sure that it's indented. And if you do not know how to indent, you press the tab button on your keyboard. Okay? And so now this is what I want to keep printing. But what condition, when do I want this to stop? Well, I want this to stop when my number is going to be or I want it to repeat while it is less than or equal to 10. Because I want it to stop when the number goes above 10. Okay? So now if I were to run this, you can see that it does the exact same thing as all of this over here. It's taking all of this, it's taking this, which is repeated many times, and it's putting it and simply repeating it 10 times. Now, why is this the case? Well, you can see here that my number starts at 1, okay? And so what happens is my first time going through this loop, it says, okay, is 1 less than or equal to 10? Yes, it is. So we're going to now run this. So it prints out number, which in this case is 1, and then it adds 1 to my number. All right, so now a number is technically really 2, right? Is 2 less than or equal to 10? It is. So it's going to print out my value and add 1 to num. So now it's 3. Is 3 less than or equal to 10? Yes, it is. So we're going to print it out. And now we're going to add 1 to it. And you can see that this process keeps going down until we hit 9. And then 9, is 9 less than or equal to 10? Yes, it is. So we print it out and we add 1. 10. Now what happens at 10? Well, is 10 less than or equal to 10? Yes, it is, because it's equal to. So now we print out 10 and then we add 1 to our number, which is 11. Okay? And now, is 11 less than or equal to 10? No, it's not. So now our loop stops running and we break that infinite cycle. Okay? And you can see that if I were to print out num, so I will go down here and print out num, you can see that my final value for number is 11. Now, of course, it's printing here, so if I just comment out, you can see that the final number is at 11, but because 11 does not work with this condition, therefore, basically it does not print out 11 inside of my loop. All right. Now, as you remember from if statements, we do use a condition we use a Boolean expression here in the header for our while loop as our condition. And while loops are very, very, very useful because it allows us to essentially repeat code anything that we want as long as the condition remains true. And then when it's no longer true, then it will stop running. Now that is very useful. However, there's also another type of loop called a for loop, which some might even argue is more useful, but I think that both are used, for their own purposes. And what a for loop allows us to do, allows us to repeat code for every value in a collection. Okay, repeat code for every value in a collection. And now what does this mean? Well, now we can go in and tie into what we learned in the last video about arrays, all right? So let's say I have a grocery list again. So I'm going to say grocery list. I'm going to create it equal to something. So lettuce, tomato, strawberries. Let's say I need ice cream, all right? So let's say this is my grocery list. But now I want to actually print every value of my, grocery list. Now, of course, you can just, you can do this by simply doing print grocery list. But let's say I want it in a list format, all right? Or let's say I want to, add some word to the end of it. Well, in order to do this, I need to run code for every single item inside of my list. And I can do this. I can say, for example, grocery list 0, just like that. All right, and let's say I want to make my list uppercase. I can actually go here and do .upper, and you can see that it now uppercases my entire word. Unless I want to do this for every item inside of my list, well, I can print out individually, right? Print out every single number. So I can print out this. I can print out here, here, and here. And I can print out for every item. So 1, 2, and 3. And you can see I can do this. However, this is very inefficient because, first of all, if the list is very long, there's no way we can type this all out. We might not even know how many items off the top of our head are in our list to do something like this. And simply writing a bunch of code like this will take up a lot of the page when we can simply might write a loop to do it for us. And so now we can write a for loop using the very same basic idea of a while loop, where we have a header and then we have a actual code to repeat. However, what goes next to our header in this specific condition is a bit different, because now, and we can use the for keyword, but now rather than running our code while a condition is true, we're actually running code for every value inside of a list. All right? And I want you to think about what I'm saying here. For every value in a collection. All right? So again, for every value in a collection. And then we run code here. Okay? Now I'm going to break this down and show you what this means. So I'm going to cut this. I'm going to actually put this in a cell below. And I'm going to run this. I'm going to clear the contents of clear the outputs of this. All right. And now I want to try and create a for loop. Right. So here, essentially what I want to do is I want to print out all the values from my grocery list uppercased. So I can say for. Now, value, what is value here? Right. I mean, I can put in my collection. I can say for, something in grocery list. Right. And then, what happens here? Well, value is actually anything we want it to be. I can call this X, I can call this Y, I can call this Z, I can call this item, whatever. Because this right here, or our value, is actually a variable that Python is creating for us. Every time we run through this cell, it's going to create a new variable called value, which is actually taking the current item that it's at in our list. The first time that this loop is going to run, it's going to take the first item out of the list and save it to this new variable that we can then use in our code block, right? The second time it runs this loop, it's going to go, or the second time that the code on the inside is run, or the second iteration is what's referred to as, the second time that the code is repeating, it's going to go to the second value in my list. It's going to then save this as item. Then the third time, it's going to take strawberries, and it's going to save it to my item. The fourth time, it's going to take ice cream and save it to my item. So here, if I just wanted to show you what value item actually is, you can see it prints out all the values because it's taking the value and then temporarily saving it as item. Every time that it moves to the next item, or the next element in the list, this item variable is going to be changing. It's going to be overwritten to the next item after it. So if I wanted to print all of these items lowercase, I can simply say print items.lower. Sorry, I should say upper, because that's what I did up there, upper. And you can see that it's now going to print all of my items out in uppercase. It's taking all of the items in my collection, or in my list here, and it's now going to save every single one individually to the item variable. And it's going to, every time, print out that item uppercased. Now, for loops are extremely powerful because you can now essentially make operations on a larger collection and do something for every single element of that collection. Now, this is going to get very useful when we talk about tables, because sometimes we need to go through every row of our data and do something, all right, or analyze something or calculate something. And we can do that now using a for loop, right? For every row in a table, right? Then maybe do something, calculate the average of some values in the row and save it to a new add it to a new column. All these things you can do using a for loop. All right, everyone, this is the very basics and the beginning of using iteration. And as we go through a lot of future projects and future videos, we will be using loops extensively because of how powerful they really are. They allow us to do so many things that simply we wouldn't be able to do any other way, right? If we have this large amount of, for example, data or a large amount of numbers, and we need to go through all of those numbers, then we wouldn't be able to do it the manual way, like how I'm doing here, as showing in his example, or here, This is simply not efficient, and it takes a really long time. And this requires us to also know exactly how many times we need to repeat something, which often cases we just don't know. So when we use loops, it allows us to, for example, repeat something while the condition is true, or for every item in a list. And that is very, very, very useful and very handy, especially when it comes to the larger and larger, either data sets or a number of values that we use. All right, everyone. If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe for more content. Make sure to follow CADS on social media, as well as join our Listerv for the most up-to-date information on the organization. And thanks for watching. See you all in the next one.